Y'all remember when I said that I was going to Georgetown University and I've been accepted to Georgetown University? Yeah. Well, I dropped out. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges. But what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we're going to be talking about letting go of societal pressures and fully pursuing what's for you. So let's get started. First and foremost, Happy New Year, everybody. This releases on New Year's, and so I hope that you guys had a safe, most importantly, New Year's Eve. I hope you guys had a happy New Year's Eve. You got to spend it with loved ones, family, friends, whatever that looks like for you. And I hope that you got the time to relax. I'm really excited for the new year and I'm very excited to see what it brings us. And so I'm just ready to start fresh and let go of some things that don't serve me anymore. So let's get into it. A couple of months ago, I announced that I was going to Georgetown University and I was very, very excited at the time. I honestly applied on a whim and I talked about that in the episode. Once I got here, I realized that this is not for me. It took me some time to get there because honestly, dropping out of school is something that's highly frowned upon here in the US. So it's not like I just automatically was like, yeah, I'm ready to drop out. This is going to be a great idea. No, it took me some time to get to that decision. I honestly took the time to just reevaluate what was for me and what I wanted out of life. And I didn't need a $100,000 degree to get to where I wanted to be in life. And so I took some time to reevaluate what it would mean for me to get this master's degree and what it would mean for me to stay in school. And I came up with 5 reasons as to why I didn't want to stay anymore. And so the first thing was ROI, or return of investment. I was going to spend $100,000 because there were no scholarships or anything like that. I was going to spend $100,000 on a degree that essentially wouldn't serve me. I wanted to go so that I can elevate in my podcast, elevate in my craft, but honestly, that wasn't going to be the case. This is more of a program for people who want to be traditional journalists and work in a newsroom and do all that stuff, and that's cool. That's just not for me. The next thing is I didn't want to be a journalist. I don't want to work in a newsroom. I don't want to work for a news outlet. That was never really my thing. I want to fully pursue my passion of content creation, and at the time, the way that this was served to me was that I would be able to pretty much create my own learning experience, but it seems like that's not the case, which is fine. But I wasn't going to keep wasting money and time for a program that wasn't going to help me get anywhere. The third reason why I decided to leave is because I had associated so much of my worth with my titles and my accolades and my degrees and whatever. With being a first generation college graduate, I held so much pride in that title, and that still is very important to me, but I felt like I put all of my self-worth in I have a degree, I need to get another degree, and I need to be this, and I need to do that. And I was contemplating going to law school still, even though I knew that wasn't going to be for me anymore, just so that I could be a lawyer and have that title and people would respect me more. And I think that's the challenge that I face, especially as a woman of color, is that I feel like I need to work twice as hard to be half as good, which is true, unfortunately. But I've associated that with I need to accumulate as many accolades and as many titles as possible so that people will respect me. But bottom line is, it doesn't matter how many degrees I have, what titles I have, what I do for work. People aren't going to respect me for that if they don't want to respect. And I can't keep associating my worth with a piece of paper or with a title, because at the end of the day, it really just means nothing. So I decided that it was time for me to let go of associating my worth with being the first person in my family to have a master's degree, being one of very few people of color who have a master's degree, because that percentage is very low in the US. I had to stop tying my worth to that and associating my personality with that, because there's more to me than just what I've learned in the classroom. And the last thing is following my passions. I have always dreamt about content creation in some way, shape, or form before it was even really a thing. I used to get up and talk to myself in the mirror and do interviews, and I used to have these dreams about going on Oprah and doing interviews there and just really making an impact on people, and I wasn't doing that. I never had the time to do that. I would work all day, go to class at night, and then I would just have time to eat, sleep, and do it again the next day. I never had any time to pursue my passions, and it really came down to the choice of, do you want to continue grad school and put your passions on the back burner, or are you going to drop out and pursue what's really for you? The reason I wanted to talk about this on the podcast today was because I truly believe that there is somebody out there who is doing something solely out of obligation for others or how they'll be perceived. And I completely understand that 110%. But at the end of the day, you have to live your life for you. You have to do what's going to fulfill you, and you need to walk in the purpose that God has for you. Otherwise, you will always feel uneasy. You will always be unhappy, and I don't want that for you, and I highly doubt that that's what you want for yourself. I wanted to share this because I really want to inspire you to just let go of whatever expectations people have for you, whether it's family, friends, or even people that you don't know, just in society. Let go of that and truly follow what makes you happy. I also just wanted to point out that when I say I'm bringing you along for the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning throughout my life, I genuinely mean that. And so I didn't want to just post, oh, that I got into Georgetown and yeah, this is so cool and whatever, and not talk about the fact that, oh, I dropped out. I'm not ashamed of it at all. I'm actually very happy and very content with my decision. And I wanted to be able to put both aspects on the internet for people to see. And just for people to understand that if you announce something or if you say that you're committing to something, it is okay to change your mind. It is okay to say that this is not the thing for me. It is okay to move on and try something else because it doesn't make you happy or you don't see the worth in it or you thought it was one thing and it turned out to be something else. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. Change your mind a million times for all I care. If it's going to make you happy and it's going to get you closer to the thing that God has for you, do it. Who cares? If you are somebody who is staying in a position solely because of how you'll be perceived or because you feel obligated, I really want you to just think about what that means for you and what your life is going to look like. And so I have a couple of points that I want to go through throughout this episode, talk about how you can go from releasing yourself from the shackles of obligation and really focusing on what makes you happy and what is going to fulfill you. So the first point is think about what you truly want. I know I've talked about that a couple of times on this podcast, especially within recent episodes leading up to the new year, but I really want people to start thinking about what it is that they want and not just thinking about it, but thinking about how you're going to start putting that into action so that you can get there. If you're not doing something that truly makes you happy or truly makes you passionate, I really want you to ask yourself why. Is it because you're too busy with school? You feel like you have too much on your plate? You don't have the time for it? Where you are now, is it just easier to stay here than to take the risk of pursuing something that will make you happy? Or are you doing it because you feel obligated to do so because your family or your friends or whoever is telling you that you need to stay here, this is secure, this is the best thing that you could do for your future, despite the fact that it doesn't make you happy? Even if you have a job that pays you so well, 6-7 figures, but you are miserable, is that even worth it? Like, is the money really worth it at the end of the day? Because I guarantee you that you could do something that makes you happy, that fuels you, that has you walk in your purpose, and you'll either make just as much money or it doesn't even matter, because at the end of the day, God will sustain you and find a way for you to pursue your purpose and your passion and still elevate you. Money is not the object of everything. And I know we live in a society where we look at money as like, oh, it can buy me happiness and jokes, kiki. But in reality, there's not a number on this planet that you could pay me to do a job that I hate. So I really want you to just think about that. Are you doing this because it's a safety net for you and because you feel obligated, or does it truly make you happy? As many of you know, I am currently a teacher and I hate it. I hate it because it wasn't the thing that was for me. And I kind of just felt cornered into teaching because I graduated from school a semester early, and that was not the plan. But I graduated a semester early and was trying to figure out, what do I do next? And I knew I had a lot of experience working with kids, and I liked that. I liked being somebody who worked with kids part-time, not being their full-time teacher and taking on the role of what that means to be a teacher. I really enjoyed pouring into them and just really getting them ready for what life is going to look like, especially as a person of color. And so I was just like, law school is not the way for me. And I thought all up until this last semester that I was going to be going to law school right after this, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So let me just become a teacher and see what that's about. And I did that. And while I loved working with the kids and still being able to pour into youth like I wanted to, I hated everything else about it. Everything. And I started to resent teaching because it's so much work that you can never really just go home and relax. Like, you have to bring your work home with you. And I never had any time to pursue my passions or even think about my passions. I worked all day, just be so exhausted and so mentally and emotionally drained. All you want to do is just eat your dinner, if that, and lay down and prepare yourself for the next day. So I really started to resent that. I felt like I was just living to work and never really getting anything out of life. Like, what was I doing? I wasn't doing anything on the weekends other than just resting for the next week. I felt like I was just too young to do that. I was too young to be in a place where it's like all I do is work myself to the bone, and I don't have anything that makes me happy. I don't have a social life. I don't do anything that excites me. I don't do anything that will help build me for the future. And so I just felt very lost. And now I'm at a point where even though I have the hang of teaching a little bit more, I still don't enjoy it because it's just not my purpose. It's not the thing that God has for me, I don't believe. And that's okay. But now I need to go ahead and close the gap and figure out what am I going to do to get towards my purpose. I'm fortunate enough to know what my purpose is and how I can get there, but some people may not be there yet because they are too in the moment of like, I just need to do this. I just need to work hard and get this paycheck and pay this off and whatever the case may be. They might be too exhausted, emotionally drained to even think about what their passions are or what their purpose is. And if you're struggling to figure out what your purpose is, I really want you to think about what is the thing that fuels you. What is the thing that you always envisioned yourself doing, but maybe it's just too big or it's unrealistic. The thing that you were doing even when you were younger and you didn't really understand what that was. Like how I talked about, I used to wake up and just talk to myself in the mirror and pretend that I was on an interview with Oprah. I already knew what my purpose was at the time. I just didn't know what that would look like as I got older. Here's the thing about staying in a place because you feel obligated to do so or because you feel like you need to satisfy others by staying there. When you do that, you start to grow resentment. You start to grow resentment for the people who are pretty much pushing you to stay here. You grow resentment for your situation, and it's very hard to live a life, a soft life at that. But it's very hard to live a soft life of peace and happiness when you're just so frustrated with your situation. You're frustrated with where you are. You're not happy with your job. You're not happy with what your circumstances are, and you're not doing something at the very least on your free time that makes you happy, that fuels you. I really just want to push you to get past that because the resentment will only grow. It doesn't go away. Not only do you grow a resentment for your situation, but you also start to feel stagnant. That's where a lot of people start feeling like they're stuck in life and that they have nowhere to go. And I have definitely been there. When I moved to DC and I started teaching again, mostly just because I really needed a job, I felt like I was going to be stuck in education forever and I felt like I made the wrong choice. But at the end of the day, I'm not stuck anywhere I don't want to be stuck, and neither are you. You don't have to stay somewhere just because it seems like there's no way out. There's always a way out. And if you don't want to feel stuck anymore, you need to start figuring out what makes you happy, what fuels you, and what your purpose is. That's going to be the first step into getting you unstuck from whatever situation that you're in. I think we get so caught up in, oh, well, I said that I was going to do this and I told so-and-so and I posted it on the internet and this, that, and the third. And how is it going to look or what are they going to say when I say that I'm not doing that anymore? And that's really how I felt about grad school. That was part of the reason why I was kind of nervous about making my decision, was because I went on the internet and I said, oh, I'm going to Georgetown University. And I got a lot of praise for that. And I'm very thankful for that. But at the same time, it was just like, it really doesn't matter what anybody else has to say. I have to live my life for me. I can't live my life to appease others because, one, you're never going to make everybody happy. And two, your life is yours. It's not theirs. They have their own life to live. And if they want to do whatever it is that they're cornering you into doing, they would either do it or not. That's just up to them. And so I really want you to remind yourself that it does not matter what people have to say. It does not matter how they're going to feel about the fact that you changed your mind about a perspective of your life. That's all on you. And if that's the thing that makes you happy, stand 10 toes on that. Stand on business on that. When I started thinking about dropping out of grad school, I didn't say a word to anyone because I didn't want anybody else's outside perspective. I have a very good circle around me, and I have people who very much value education. I have a lot of people who are either pursuing their master's or already have their master's, or just straight up value education even if they don't have a master's. And so I was worried that people would try to talk me out of dropping out because everybody thinks small picture. I think we're automatically trained to think small picture of like, oh, if we look at the picture right here, you'll get a master's degree, you'll get a good job, and you'll get a job that makes you happy. But I wasn't looking small picture. I was looking big picture. And the only reason I was able to look big picture is because I started locking in on my faith and talking to God. God was the only person that I went to when I decided maybe it's time to start actually dropping out of school. Maybe this is not the thing for us. And so I went to God first. And I said, I keep having these feelings about dropping out. I keep having these feelings of like, I don't think that this is going to be worth the money that I'm putting into it. I don't think this is going to be worth the time I'm putting into it. What should I do? I didn't want to make any rash decisions because I'm a planner, but there are some points in my life where I just make rash decisions because they sound like the best decision at the time. And I did not want to do that because here's the thing about it. You can't just drop out of grad school, especially a school like Georgetown, and say, oh, never mind, girl, I changed my mind. Can I come back? No, that's not how that works. If you drop out, you need to stand 10 toes in your decision because you can't come back. And if I wanted to transfer to another school, it would just be 10 times harder because I dropped out without even finishing the semester. I took my time and I talked to God and I really just figured out what is it that he wants me to do. And I tried to really separate what my wants were from what his wants for me are. And it took some time, but that's why I'm so grateful for my move to DC because I was really able to pour into and dive into my faith here. And I just kept asking him, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? I feel like this is what I should do, but I'm not 100% sure. Is this my want or your will? What should I do? And I would just talk about it all the time. I would think about it all the time. And every time I asked, the first thing I thought of is, what would my life look like if I fully pursued content creation? What would my life look like if I fully started pursuing the passions and the things that make me happy? I could finally live a life where I'm not miserable when I come home, or I'm not exhausted when I come home. I could live a life where I have the ability to have a social life, to do things that make me happy, to be creative, and to really see a life where instead of just walking around with a RBF, a resting bleep face, I'm trying not to curse anymore, I could probably be walking around looking a lot more happier just because I feel internally fulfilled and more happy. And so I just took that as the message of like, you have this thought because I placed it there. You don't need to go to grad school to do what it is that I have planned for you. Drop out. And so I did. I dropped out. And when I had my mind made up, that is when I went to my friends and my circle and I said, I'm thinking about dropping out of school. And I got exactly what I was expecting. No, why would you do that? Like, are you sure that you want to do that? And not because they wanted me to stay stuck or they wanted me to stay stagnant. Not at all. I think it's just because, again, one, we value education here so much, and the circle that I surround myself with values education so much. So I understand why they wanted me to stay, but also they're looking small picture and I'm looking bigger picture. God blessed me with the ability to see the bigger picture of what my life would look like if I dropped grad school and fully locked in on what it is that I wanted to do. If I used my gifts and talents of being able to speak well and pass on a message and tell a story, if I used the gifts and talents that God gave me and pushed it out to others and inspired them, my life would look so different. And I want that. I don't want 2025 or the rest of my life to look like the years past where it's like I was just doing something because it was a safety net, because it felt secure, despite the fact that I was miserable, despite the fact that it doesn't fuel me, despite the fact that it was robbing me of being able to live a real fulfilling life, a life that a lot of people my age are living. And that's the thing. I got to see people who are pursuing their dreams, pursuing their goals. And I was just like, wow, that is so cool. Like, I wish I could do that. I can do that. You can do that. If you feel like you're seeing a lot of people who are pursuing their passions, their dreams, their goals, and you're like, wow, I wish I could do that. You can. You can. You just need to get a plan in place to be able to get there. But everybody has the ability to fully pursue their gifts, their talents, their passions, whatever it is that God has for them. You just have to be willing to shift your mindset and understand that I would have to let go of some things, aka caring about what other people have to say, and really start focusing on what makes me happy. And you'll get there. I have a couple of questions here that I want you to think about when you think about what you truly want. So the first one is, am I here because I love this or because other people expect it? What would change if I put myself first? What would I be doing if other people's opinions wasn't an issue? If no one knew about my decision, if it wasn't shared on social media or praised for by others, would I still be doing this? When I think about doing this for the rest of my life, do I feel excited and fulfilled, or does it feel like an obligation or a chore? If I chose a different path that truly excited me, what fears or reactions from others am I worried about? I really want you to take the time to write those down and just be honest with yourself. Do that shadow work, do that inward reflection, and really think about what it is that you're truly scared of when it comes to pursuing the thing that is truly for you, the thing that will make you the happiest you'll ever be. All right, point number 2. Visualize what it would look like if you truly followed your desires. I have more work for you to do, so keep that pen and paper or your notes app. I have some more questions that I really want you to think about when it comes to what your life could look like if you made that shift. So the first one is, what would a perfect day in your new life look like if you were fully immersed in your passion? How would waking up each morning feel if you were doing the thing that you loved? Let me tell you right now. Right now, I'm dragging myself by my eyebrows, edges, and eyelashes to go to work. But imagine a life where you don't have to do that, where you don't have to drag yourself out of bed every morning and you could just go and do the thing that makes you happy and it doesn't even feel like work. Can you picture it? Do you see it? Is it there for you? Next one. What new opportunities, connections, or experiences could come into your life by choosing this path? What would success look like for you on this new journey? How would you define it in your own terms? It's not always just about money, y'all. Having your freedom over your time, that's way more valuable than money. And last one. What would your future self thank you for if you took this leap today? We all have that thing that we've thought about since we were a kid and we imagine ourselves doing. But along the way, we get a lot of these influences from outside sources of, oh, that dream is too big. Oh, that's unrealistic. Only a few people are able to do that. Maybe you should do this instead. Our family only does this. But you don't have to listen to that. You really don't. At the end of the day, you get a choice. In life, you can either choose to stay stagnant and stay exactly where you're at and it makes you unhappy. That is your choice. Or you can choose to step out on a new path, try something new, take a risk, and really pursue what makes you happy and what is going to fuel you. Either way, you have a choice. And you cannot decide because of other people. You cannot let other people make that decision for you, because here's the thing about it. When you are worried about what other people have to say, what their reactions are going to be, and what their response to you is going to be if they found out that you made a decision for your own life, you're essentially having them make the decision for you. Do you want to make your own decisions in life, or do you want to have somebody else do that for you? I know for me, I'm way too grown and independent to have somebody else be making my decisions for me. So if you're at a point where you feel like you're ready to start making your own decisions, part of that means not worrying about what other people have to say, even if it's negative, especially when it's negative, or even if it's not out of negativity, it's more so out of worry and concern, or just because they're only seeing small picture. Even then, next point, what is the worst thing that can happen? I feel like a lot of us are so programmed to think about what's the worst thing that can happen all at once if you pursued your goals, your dreams, and your passions, or we tend to over-exaggerate what the worst thing that can happen if we decide to pursue our goals, or if we didn't listen to others and we decided to be different. I want to talk about that last question I had asked for point 1. If I chose a different path and I was truly excited, what fears or reactions am I worried about from others? I really want you to answer that question, because a lot of the times the fears or the worries that you have are very small in comparison to the way that our brain makes us feel and the way that our emotions make us feel about that. Some reactions from family might be big, they might be drastic. I know that there's some families out there where they'll cut you off for doing something different, or whatever the case may be. You have to be willing to step on faith and take that risk and say, okay, if you're going to cut me off because I want to pursue the passions that I have and the purpose that God has for me, go ahead and do that. And I know that that's very hard. Trust me, it is much easier for me to say than it is for somebody to live it. And I've been there. I have definitely been there. So I understand what you are going through or what you might be worried about. But being on the other side after going through those challenges of having been kicked out and going to college and pursuing the thing that I wanted, even though it was very, very difficult and it low-key left me with a little bit of trauma, I'm going to be honest, it was so worth it, because I knew that I was doing the thing that was going to make me happy. And I graduated. Not only did I graduated with honors, and I graduated early, and I did all these great things, and I met these amazing people in college that are like my friends and family today. And so it was 110% worth it. If you are worried about being cut off or being isolated from your loved ones because you decided to do something different, take the step anyway, because I promise you'll be worth it. And honestly, anybody who loves you enough won't do that to you. They're not going to isolate you solely because you decided to pursue something different. People who love you are going to elevate you and lift you up and encourage you to pursue the thing that makes you happy, encourage you to do the thing that you're good at, encourage you to live the life that you want to live. Anybody that's blocking you from that needs to work on themselves and needs to do some healing. And maybe they just need to do that healing first, and maybe they do love you, but they have something blocking you, or maybe they don't love you. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But I don't know about y'all. I want to be surrounded by people who love me and encourage me and lift me up and push me to do the thing that I want to do, the thing that I talk about all the time, the thing that I daydream about doing all the time. And I want that for you. I want you to be surrounded by so many people who love you enough to say, I know that you're scared. I know that you're worried, but I'm going to be here for you regardless of whether or not you're homeless, regardless of whether or not you have no money, regardless of whether or not you need groceries. I'm always going to be here for you. And God will bless you with those people if you feel like you don't have them right now. I guarantee you. But you need to take that step. You need to take that risk. You need to step out on faith and really just have trust in yourself for making the right decision for your life. I think a lot of people are also worried about failure. Not only do we have this fear about what other people are going to say and how they're going to react, but we also have this fear of, well, what if I fail and fall flat on my face looking like boo-boo the fool? And honestly, you need to just reframe your mindset on that. Failure is so essential to be successful, whatever success looks like for you, right? Because it's not always about money. In order for you to grow as a person, for you to grow in whatever craft it is that you're trying to do, you need to be able to fail, because that teaches you what you shouldn't do moving forward, so you can get closer to what it is that you should do. You start narrowing out and weeding out the things that you don't need or you shouldn't do to be able to get closer and closer to the perfect formula for whatever your craft is. But you cannot do that without failing first. You cannot do that without letting other people see you fail first, because even though they're going to have something to say, at least you're seen trying, and at least you're seen failing and getting back up and doing it again. It's one thing to fail and just sit there. Imagine if I fell on the floor in front of a million people right now and just laid there. Embarrassing, right? But if I fell in front of a million people and got back up and continued to go about my day and continue to go about my message, whatever it was that I'm doing, okay, she fell. It was embarrassing and awkward for a moment, but hey, she got back up and she continued. And you know what? That was the best speech I ever heard. That's how you need to operate in life. Think about it. If you really fell in front of somebody right now, you just laid there and said, whatever, I'm just going to be here for a moment. Isn't that just, that's more awkward. That's more painful. And you don't learn anything from that. You don't do anything. You just stay stuck there. So I really want to encourage you to reframe your mindset on what failure is and start really looking at it as a tool to getting closer to success, to getting closer to the life that you want to have, because you cannot get there without failure. You cannot get there without trials and tribulations. You cannot get there without growth and growing pains. And that means that you're going to have to fail. You're going to have to experience some hard things. You're going to have to go through some challenges, but it's going to be so much worth it in the end, because nothing that is worth having in this life comes easily. I don't want anything in this life that is just strictly handed to me, because what does that teach me? And that doesn't build anything for me. With me being kicked out and being homeless for a while when I was in college, that built my character. And I'm not glamorizing homelessness and I'm not glamorizing pain or any of that stuff, but I'm being grateful for the fact that I went through that challenging time and I came out on the other side a better person. And it took me a while to see that. It's going to take you a while to see that for sure, but you're going to get to a point where it's like, I would not be who I am without that. There would be no you without your trials and tribulations. And I really need you to start looking at it that way and being grateful for the fact that I went through that challenging time, but that challenging time helps me see the good times and appreciate them so much more than if my life was just good all the time. If your life is just good all the time, that's just a regular day. Here's something that I want you to do for your fears. I'm giving y'all a lot of homework, and you know what? I love it. I want you to take a piece of paper or your notes app, whatever, and I want you to essentially make a pros and cons list, but without pros and cons, right? It'll be fears on one side and solutions on the other. I want you to write down all the fears that you have about pursuing your dreams and pursuing your goals. List them all out. Be realistic. Even if it's something that seems so minor of like, oh, I'm worried somebody will unfollow me, whatever. Write it all down. And then I want you to write on the other side what the solution is to your fear. And I want you to keep that in mind every time you feel fearful about pursuing your passion, or even if you feel try to say that 5 times fast, or even if you feel fearful and you're already stepping out, look at the list, because not only do you have your fears listed out, but you took the time to really think about what the solution is to get yourself out of that mindset of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did this, or I made this mistake, whatever. You have a solution. It's going to happen. We're all going to have those times where we're nervous. We're all going to have those times when we fail. And when we have those times, you got to stay ready. So you don't got to get ready. And you'll have a solution there for you. The last point is to seek guidance. Ever since I moved to DC, I have really been growing in my faith as a Christian woman. And so I'm learning to fully seek God for any guidance that I need before I seek any other human being on this planet first. And the reason for that is because up until this point, I've done everything on my own will and it's been nothing but ratchet. And I don't want that for me anymore. And I only want the thing that God has for me. And so I need to stop listening to outside voices and stop listening to my own voice sometimes and really just lock in on what it is that He's trying to tell me first and then go about my business. Or maybe He might speak to me through somebody else. You have to be very careful with what kind of information you take from people, what advice you take from people, because it may sound good. It may sound great, but it's not even for you. The message wasn't even for you, girl. It was for somebody else. But you try to take it, you try to twist it and be like, oh yeah, that fits my situation. That's definitely for me. It wasn't though. And it'll be made very clear when it wasn't for you. That's why it's just so much easier to go to the source and ask Him. And if He's going to send somebody to talk to you, you'll know. But more times than not, He wants to talk to you directly than have a messenger sent to you. And so He will tell you. But the only way that you'll be able to hear that is if you allow a space for that to happen. And I'm not going to hold you. It is hard. As somebody who is growing in that area of listening to God and really seeking a conversation with God, I completely understand when somebody's like, well, what does that even mean? What does God's voice sound like? How do I know that that's Him and not me? Honestly, it's going to just take some strengthening of that muscle, really getting used to your alone time with God, because He talks to people in different ways. Sometimes it might be through your own thoughts. Sometimes it might be just through a feeling that you have within your spirit. Sometimes it might be through somebody else. Or sometimes it might just be, God, I really need some help with this and that and the third. And maybe you go to read your Bible and the story you're reading about is exactly about your situation. It is very different for every situation. But what I really want you to get into the practice of is just spending time alone with Him so that you can figure that out. Because honestly, there's no secret sauce. There's no message that I can give you that say this is exactly how God speaks to you. Because it's different for every situation and it's different for every person. What God says to me and how He speaks through me is going to be very different for what He says to you and how He speaks through you. And so I want you to get used to spending that time alone so you can figure out like this is how our relationship works and this is how He talks to me. With that being said, seek God in everything that it is that you do first, because He has nothing but good plans for you. And you don't want to go out on your own and do something by yourself because you don't even know what your plan is. It might sound good. It might look great. It might be pretty. It might be all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, God knows exactly what your life is going to look like. He knows exactly what He created you for and exactly what your purpose is. Ask Him. What use is it to ask the student next to you what you missed if you didn't come to class that day than it is to just ask the teacher. The teacher already knows. The teacher already knows exactly what the lesson was, exactly what you missed, and here's exactly what you need to know moving forward. The kid next to you is just going to be like, oh, we learned this. That's it. What's the point? Don't go to the messenger, go directly to the source. Now, if you're not somebody who is religious or spiritual or anything like that, seek guidance in somebody who is very wise and somebody that you look up to and that you admire. I highly encourage you to seek a faith if you can, if you're ready for that. And if you're not there yet, that's perfectly okay. Pick one person, no more than one. Pick one person that you really admire, that you aspire to be like, who has all their things in place at this point in their life. Seek guidance in them, ask them for advice, and just talk to that one person, because the other thing about it is like when you start asking multiple people about the same situation, you get so many different perspectives. Everybody brings their own trauma and things into their responses when they talk to other people, and you do not need too many people telling you too many different things, because that leads to confusion. One person that you admire, one person that you aspire to be like, ask them, and that's it. My challenge for you this week is to ask God, Lord, what is your purpose for me? What do you want me to do in this life? And I want you to ask from a place where you really mean it. Don't just say, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do for today? Like, no, actually say, what do you want for me in this life? Because I'm not sure. Or I feel like I have an idea, but I just want to be 100% sure. Is this your will or is this my want? And I really encourage you to do that, because you will find the answer that you're looking for. And you're not going to get it off the first try. Some of you may. It really just depends on his relationship with you. And a lot of us won't. It'll take asking multiple times to be sure. And it's because he's trying to get you to really think about it. He's trying to prune your mind so that you're not always just thinking about, well, what do I want? When you ask God, what do you want me to do? The first thing you think about is what you want out of life. And is this what you want for me too? No, it's probably not. You just need to ask him and say, what do you want from me out of life? And you might have to ask over and over and over again until you finally are ready to hear the answer that he has for you. He will give it to you. But he's not going to give you an answer, or he's not going to give you a blessing that you're not ready for, because you're going to fumble it back. Respectfully. All right, y'all. Here are the key takeaways from today's episode. The first one is, living your dreams is going to take courage, and you are more than capable of doing it. Stop listening to others and start focusing on yourself. Number 2, there is no other person on this planet that can define what happiness and success looks like for you. So stop listening to them. Stop listening to them. What you want out of life is solely tailored for you. It might be similar to somebody else, but they can't tell you. Only you can tell you what success and happiness looks like. And the last one, God is the source for everything. Go to him for clarity. Go to him for courage. Go to him for strength. When you're really unsure about what it is that you should do, or if you're really unsure about any situation, ask him. He will guide you, and he will get you exactly where you need to be. All right, y'all. We're at the point where we've reached the affirmation for this week. And the affirmation for this week is, I owe it to myself to pursue what I am called to do. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat this 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. And so, I owe it to myself to pursue what I am called to do. I owe it to myself to pursue what I am called to do. I owe it to myself to pursue what I am called to do. Well, that is all I have for you guys today. I really hope that this message resonates with you. It's the first episode of 2025, and I'm super excited about that. I gave you guys a lot of homework, and I genuinely want to hear back in terms of what you thought. What were your thoughts about this episode? What did you think about the homework? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about your fears? Did you go to God for the courage, or did you find somebody of wise counsel that you could seek in guidance on this earth? Let me know in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. If you are listening to this on Spotify, you can actually leave comments on Spotify now too. I did not know that. I'm my Apple Music friend. But leave comments on Spotify too. Or you can go ahead and DM us or comment on our social media posts, both on TikTok and Instagram at the HSL Pod. And in the spirit of pursuing everything that God has for us, I have a very short announcement. I have decided to start creating lifestyle content. So it's a little bit different than what I've been talking about here on the podcast. Essentially, I'll be talking a lot about faith, fitness, and just life as a 20-something-year-old living in DC. and I'm very excited to start this journey, and I just released my first video yesterday. If you want to follow me and see a different side of me outside of the HSL podcast, you can follow me on Instagram at Sabrina, SABRINAA.LIZET. That's where you'll be able to see my personal page and my lifestyle content. TikTok, it'll be the same thing. And if you want to follow me and see a different version of myself, feel free to follow me and see my lifestyle content. Is there anything that you want to see that's outside of the HSL podcast, of like what my day-to-day life looks like, or how I'm truly pursuing the passions and the purpose that God has for me? Feel free to ask me there. But that's all I have for you this week, and I'm very excited for 2025, and I'm super, super proud of you for all the work that you put in 2024. That's all I have for you this week, but I'm gonna catch you on the next one. Bye.